Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Now you're welcome back. So as the summer ticks along, we're inching towards the resumption of the season. Cristiano Ronaldo back at Carrington today for talks with Erik Ten Hag and the club. Andy Mitten, editor of United We Stand, is with us. Andy, I trust you had a bit of time off over the summer?
Yeah, I got back from Australia yesterday after a 40-hour trip back from Manchester United's pre-season tour. I tried to take some time off about a month ago. I just wanted to get away from football, so I went to write about the Tour de France. But even when I was there, I got a phone call asking me if I'd go on television to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, who a story broke that he wanted to leave Manchester United. So it's very difficult to unplug from the soap opera that is football and also Manchester United. I have had some time with my family, but the last few weeks I've been on the pre-season tour, so it's been really busy travelling around, and travel's difficult at the moment, whether in the UK and Ireland or further afield. But Manchester United played well, and I'm a bit jet lagged now, but everything's okay.
Good man. And presumably Cristiano Ronaldo still wants to leave Manchester United?
Yeah, it's my understanding that he wants to leave Manchester United, and also that Manchester United don't want to sell him. So that's been a story. It's been rumbling along for almost as long as the Frenkie De Jong to Manchester United story. United fans are pretty split on Ronaldo. When it happened, I put a poll on my Twitter, and maybe 30,000 people responded, and I think only 30% really wanted Ronaldo to stay at Manchester United. So I think people know that he's been an amazing player, and even last year he was an amazing player. But it's certainly not unanimous in terms of people wanting him to stay. We don't know what's going to happen. Footballers tend to get the way when they want to move, but it's not clear cut with Ronaldo. He earns so much money that I don't think nobody can afford him who is at the level that he wants to play at. So it's all right saying you want to play Champions League football. I'm not aware of any clubs in the Champions League who can come close to affording his wages. So we'll probably hear a bit more about this. He's in Manchester at the moment. He will be speaking to Erik Ten Hag for the first time. George Mendes, his agent, also came to Manchester too. So I think Cristiano's conscious that he doesn't want to annoy Manchester United fans too much. United fans are so split on it. A lot are just like, just go. You've been an amazing player, but you're the past and not the future. And others with good reason are saying he's still a great player. On the tour, I spoke to people at the club, people who can see a real clear logic for him leaving, and yet at the same time feel completely conflicted because of his personal brilliance and his professionalism and his drive to be the best footballer he can be. And one person said to me, if every footballer was as professional as Cristiano Ronaldo, the levels in world football would increase by 20% overnight.
All that said, I mean, his presence last year hardly inspired those around him to greatness. Last
year was terrible. Manchester United were absolutely awful.
Yeah. So that undercuts the argument that just Ronaldo's presence alone is going to create some kind of a culture. Like, it was a toxic culture, if anything, at that club last year.
And that's why when I wrote a piece about 3 weeks ago and quoted numerous sources basically saying it's not a problem if he goes. Financially, it wouldn't be a problem either. But commercially, United can still do very well out of Cristiano Ronaldo. I think football's got to take a precedent here. And the timing's not ideal because there's not a long list of strikers you can go out and buy. A lot of this is on the manager. As we saw pre-season, Manchester United played well with the high-pressing game that Erik Ten Hag likes to play. And that's not a game for Cristiano Ronaldo. So you really would be disrupting the style of play, which is in its infancy under Erik Ten Hag. But it's exactly what people said to me within the club when he signed a year ago. They're like, okay, this is great, but we've got to rip up any plans for this season in terms of the style of football that we're developing and have developed under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So there's pretty compelling arguments both sides to this. I think the manager should decide as much as possible now. And he impressed me on the tour. He's a disciplinarian. He's got the respect of most of his players. He's at his best on the training ground. He's a very good coach. And I think the manager of Manchester United should be the most important person at the club and not a player, whether that's Cristiano Ronaldo or anybody else.
Ten Hag publicly is being very clear that he wants to keep Ronaldo. I find that so hard to believe.
What else can he say?
Exactly, but I mean privately, I find that hard to believe. I absolutely, publicly he has to say that because you risk causing all sorts of complications otherwise. But privately, I find it hard to believe that he does believe that.
Well, look at the 3 previous managers. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer dropped Ronaldo against Everton last year. Michael Carrick dropped Ronaldo. Ralph Rangnick wanted to drop Ronaldo, but he gave up the ghost after a couple of months. I think there's another issue here with Ronaldo starting to realise that he can't do things that he used to be able to do as a player, even though he's still fantastic. I'm with you because Erik Ten Hag has a very clear way of playing football, and that doesn't involve relatively static centre forwards. But Manchester United is an exceptional club, and Cristiano Ronaldo is an exceptional player. He's got a problem. Do I think if Ronaldo said he wants to go tomorrow, goodbye, walk off into the sunset, that Erik Ten Hag would be massively concerned by that? I don't, but I don't have any hard evidence of that. It's just conjecture on my part and doing my job and speaking to people around Manchester United.
It does make all this rather strange because we don't have a situation here whereby Ronaldo is saying, I love this place, I'm staying and I better be in the first team or I'm going to cause ructions. He's saying, I want out. I mean, it's like a gift. It's a welcoming gift to Ten Hag here that the Ronaldo problem could just disappear. Like it's Manchester United here who are saying, no, you're staying. That's what's so striking about all this.
Yeah, because he signed a contract. That has been United's standpoint. But I'm sounding hesitant here because I don't fully believe it. And when players want to go, they do tend to get the way. And if you wind back a year, we heard very similar noises from Cristiano Ronaldo about staying at Juventus. He started the season with Juventus and then he left. He's given this line. This line's been briefed about wanting to excel in the Champions League. I'm not entirely convinced by that. If you look at where the real huge money could come from, you're looking at places like Saudi Arabia. You might think that someone like America, which couldn't pay him anything like that, might be attractive to him and his family, but he's still a top level player. He showed that with his numbers last season. I think it's best for all if it's sorted out and it's dragged on a little bit. It was quite nice to go on the tour, just to focus on the football, to watch the forwards who actually play for the club, to see people like Anthony Martial playing well because his stock had dropped probably to its lowest ever level before the tour, having had a few poor seasons at United and a poor loan spell at Sevilla. We saw flashes from Marcus Rashford. I spoke to him on Sunday after the game, and he needs to win United fans back over again. Jadon Sancho had a very, very good tour. But a year ago, when Ronaldo signed, United had too many players up front, and now it looks like they're a bit short up front. I think it shouldn't just be about individuals. It shouldn't be... We've gone down this path so many times in the last 9 years. We need him in, bring him in, bring him in. I think the coaching side has got to be more important now. It's not just about names. Too many players have flopped at Manchester United. Huge names. I think the manager has got to have absolute power to coach this team who vastly underperformed last season. And again, I was pretty encouraged by what I saw and what I heard on the pre-season tour. But I said the same in 2014 when Louis van Gaal took over. And in the first game of the season, United were beaten at Old Trafford by Swansea City and all hell broke loose.
It sure did. It was noticeable that Ronaldo arrived at Carrington with Jorge Mendes, and 5 minutes later, certain Alex Ferguson just happens to drive into Carrington behind him, and Manchester United have moved to say that Ferguson was there for a routine meeting with the board. But I did find myself thinking back to October when Solskjaer was about to bite the bullet and he was under huge pressure, and lo and behold, Ferguson happened to be at Carrington on that significant day, and the excuse or the rationale that time was that he was there for a suit fitting. I dare say they may have Ferguson's suit measurements on record at Carrington or at Old Trafford. So it does beg the question, Andy, what's your sense, in so much as you can deduce, what's your sense of how influential Ferguson is still around the club?
He's more influential than he was for large periods of Ed Woodward's reign. And Ferguson backed right off He still kept an office at Old Trafford for match days, but he didn't want to be like Sir Matt Busby, overshadowing the managers. Jose Mourinho was the one who pulled him back down to the training ground for the first time. Louis van Gaal really wanted to keep a distance from him. Ferguson still has an opinion, absolutely so. It is still a club in flux. Has he been delighted with everything that's gone on? No. Has he heck? When Ronaldo was going to City, he was one of them who expressed his opinion strongly. Do not let this happen. And it didn't happen. He came to United. I think Ronaldo has got a huge amount of time first for Alex Ferguson, but he's got even more time for Cristiano Ronaldo. There's different... John Murtough is a man who's got a lot of power on the football side. You've got Erik Ten Hag, you've got Joe Glazer, you've got Richard Arnold as well. I don't think any one of those people has got an absolute authority in the way that Ferguson once had. When he was manager, it's still a club in a state of flux. It's all right me talking and saying the pre-season was good. There has been so many changes at Manchester United this summer, and the power at the moment lies with John Murtough. He's the man who brought Ralph Rangnick in, who brought Erik Ten Hag in, but he'll be judged as well if Ten Hag is not a success. And Ten Hag's finding his feet, and he's best to find them on the training ground with the players. That's what he's good at. I think he did quite well with the media. Wasn't a brilliant talker, but then Ralph Rangnick was a brilliant talker. Just a shame the football was pretty poor under Ralph Rangnick. There's so many different facets to Manchester United. You still don't get a sense that everyone's pulling in the right direction, because there are still issues like the Ronaldo one which need resolving.
It was interesting. Alex Ferguson was over in an Irish race meeting here, Punchestown, not so long ago, and reported it very well to ambush him. And boy, when he turned around and saw a camera and microphone, he did not want to be interviewed. But eventually, reporter asked the question about Manchester United and the situation, and Ferguson didn't want to say much, but he said, "Time for someone to get a hold of it now." And it just meant talk about cutting down to the nub of the fact that he clearly thinks the whole club is a mess and no one has a hold of the situation.
That's what I've just been saying.
Yeah.
I said it pretty clearly then. No one has had the control that Sir Alex Ferguson has. Can anyone have that type of control at a club which has got so big? Again, maybe not. But there's been such a dispersion of power and decision makers that the mess what Manchester United has become is partly a symptom of that. Joe Glazer is the top dog. He entrusts people to deliver for him. Ed Woodward thought that it was delivering in terms of numbers and names. Them players didn't perform. And the most important thing for a club is to win matches and to win trophies. United have gone 5 years without winning a trophy. So that view that Ferguson said at Punchestown, that is absolutely what he feels. I've heard similar from many different sources.
Is he helping the situation, Andy? Videos with Habib here and Punchestown comments there, and turning up on certain significant days at Carrington, and his advice to sign Ronaldo, his advice all the way back to David Moyes. You could question a lot of it. I mean, is he actually a net positive over the last 10 years?
I don't think he's been influential in a lot of the decisions between David Moyes and Cristiano Ronaldo. I think people deliberately didn't go to Ferguson. I don't think he's had that much involvement.
Right.
And I don't see him as a huge issue. I think that Ten Hag's got very clear ideas of what's going on, and he'll speak to Ferguson. But he's got to find his own 2 feet. It's only a problem if Ferguson is briefing against the current manager. And that has happened a couple of times. But I'm told that with Ten Hag, he doesn't see that as a bad signing. I think there were times last season when he was extremely frustrated. Well, he can join the millions of Manchester United fans who felt the same.
So you mentioned the pre-season tour then. United had 4 games in 3 cities. They were in Bangkok and Melbourne and Perth. 3 wins, 1 draw. You said you were impressed with Ten Hag. Do you want to expand on what you saw from him?
Yeah, I was, because it's my job to find out what's going on. And I speak to lots of different people. I was impressed with the football. 4-0 win against Liverpool. Admittedly, that could have been 4-4, and Liverpool played 3 different teams. But it was still Manchester United 4, Liverpool 0. United won in Melbourne against Crystal Palace, against Melbourne Victory, and played very well in the first half in Perth on Saturday against Aston Villa. Played pretty poorly in the the second half. So maybe that wasn't a bad thing, because Ten Hag could rip into them, as he did do. He wasn't going to do media after the game, and then he did it, and he was very critical of his players. So he's not afraid of calling people out. We saw little glimpses of that during matches, during the game, when he would be really strong and say, "What on earth are you doing? I told you not to do that. This isn't football." In training, I was told that he constantly stops. "I want you to do it this way," to the point that he drives the players mad. But again, in a good way. They feel that they can improve under him. His assistant, Mitchell, I heard good things about him. He's been a manager himself. He's not best friends with Ten Hag, doesn't need to be, but he's a good foil to him. He managed in Portugal at the highest level, good on the training ground. Steve McLaren's back, isn't to the same level as those two in terms of being a modern coach and being absolutely up to speed, but knows United. Just a good person to have around. That's the impression that I got. So they've picked the confidence up off the floor, which was needed. It could go back down there if United start the season poorly. I thought with the media, it was good, even though his English isn't 100%. He makes it clear if he doesn't like a question. And I think he's aware of how big Manchester United are as well. I think he sees the media as a necessary evil. But he does it, and I'm told of staff who work with him, they say he's got a bit of a humour about him, but discipline first. Whereas Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was nice first, and could discipline in private. And one player turned up late twice to team meetings, and he was expected to start in one of the matches, and he didn't start. So that is the manager saying very firmly, "You do things my way." Not in an anal way that Louis van Gaal did, where he'd go crazy if you were 1 minute late. It's more relaxed than that. But after 2 or 3 weeks of Ralph Rangnick, 8 or 9 of my best sources were pretty damning. And United fans didn't want to hear that, because you had a shiny new manager and everything was going to be great. "How dare you tell us this?" They'd say. "What on earth do you know?" And I just kept hearing it off people I trusted. After 2 or 3 weeks of Ten Hag, I'm hearing pretty much the opposite of that. I'm hearing good stuff. But then you've got to caution, because the people telling me they want it to be good, they're predisposed to be good, their jobs are reliant on it being good. It's a new season, and I think every footballer or even sports fan before a new season is at their most optimistic point. If United get in more of the players who they want, that will lift the mood further. But August is going to be a really tough month. Playing against Brighton, Leicester, Liverpool, all of those teams scored 4 goals past Manchester United last season. Really good teams. And United will be expected not to be losing by 4 goals to any of them.
You said earlier in our conversation he has the respect of most of the players. That set off a bit of an alarm bell.
No, I wouldn't red flag that. I just don't have evidence of every single one of them.
Enough.
As a journalist, I'm always putting a jigsaw together, and it's always incomplete. I've not heard anybody saying they're not having him.
Fair enough.
And I certainly heard that about his predecessor. So the reports I'm getting are very positive about him.
Okay, that's a good one to clarify. And what about any imminent arrivals then?
Well, if he had his way, Frenkie De Jong will be coming imminently, but Frenkie De Jong doesn't share the same opinion. So I wouldn't use the word imminent with that one. We've seen Lisandro Martinez and Christian Eriksen. I'm not aware of any imminent players coming. 3 players have been signed. I think United fans are like, okay, let's see what this is about. They're not the huge names, but the huge names haven't worked. So it's more about the manager, giving the manager the power, get the system that he wants. But he does want Frenkie De Jong. It's absolutely key to the system that he wants to play. And I've divided my time between Manchester and Barcelona. I know a lot of people at FC Barcelona, and I'm pretty clear what the situation is. And it's down to the player. And Frenkie De Jong has given no indication that he wants to join Manchester United, even though the 2 clubs have agreed a deal for him to be sold to Manchester United.
And just a very last one in 30, 40 seconds, if you can. I suspect most Manchester United fans, when they waved goodbye to Anthony Martial, thought, well, we'll never see him again one way or another. And so here he is having a good pre-season. I suspect there'd still be a huge reticence to hang their hat on Martial being their lead striker for the season.
They would. Football's funny, isn't it? I'm told he needs to be more consistent, and he's got it all, but he needs to be more consistent. His goal return the last couple of years wasn't good enough, awful in Seville, but he's smiling again, and he is talented, and he knows that his own career is on the line. He's not going to get a club like Manchester United. So if he starts scoring again, people will cheer his name. They absolutely love him to be a success. But you're quite right. He's looking up at a mountain now, and he's got to start climbing it.
Andy, it's a sure sign summer is coming to an end. You're back on the show. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Andy Mitten, editor of United We Stand, with us there on Ronaldo's talks at Carrington this afternoon. Football on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. All the football you live in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Tom Dunn.
Dad, have you heard of Kate Bush?